Lyra had never seen anything like this before. Her small transport ship landed with a grinding shudder on the red, cracked surface of Tokor, a Deathworld known across the galaxy for its brutal training academies. The air was thin, sharp with a metallic taste, and the sky burned orange under two suns. Massive, jagged rock formations jutted from the desert. Casting shadows that seemed to move on their own, she adjusted the straps of her simple pack and stepped out. Around her, dozens of recruits shuffled, towering aliens of every shape and color, each carrying the heavy insignia of their species. Lyra was small, human small, barely reaching the shoulder of the smallest alien in sight. But she did not flinch. She had traveled across half the galaxy to reach this place, and she intended to survive. A horn blasted across the training field, a deep rumbling sound that made the sand vibrate. The recruits froze, instinctively bowing their heads. A figure appeared, massive, even among Giansa, hulking reptilian with scales glinting like dark bronze. His eyes were yellow, sharp, and cold. This was Galactic, the infamous instructor known for breaking the strongest recruits within a week. "You there?" Galactic's voice boomed, echoing like thunder. "Step forward." Lyra's heart pounded, but she kept her chin high. She walked forward, drawing the attention of every alien. Whispers spread. "A human? On Tokor?" Foolish Galactic studied her, tilting his head. "You are fragile," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "This academy will not forgive weakness. Laugh, and you will die. Cry, and you will die. Show fear, and you will die. Understand?" Lyra swallowed. "Yes, sir," she said. The other recruits bristled at her calm tone. No one answered like that. Not even the strongest Bruthok warriors from the Iron Worlds. "Good," Galactic said. "Then begin." The first exercise was simple for an alien. Survive a sandstorm for an hour without cover. For humans, it was near suicidal. The sand was sharp as glass, tearing at flesh, and the heat was unbearable. Lyra crouched low, feeling the wind whip against her skin. Around her, aliens moved with ease, but many looked at her strangely, wondering how such a small creature could possibly last. Hours passed. Her eyes burned, her lungs ached, and her skin blistered. She could have cried, begged, or collapsed, but instead, she laughed. A small, quiet laugh, almost absurd at how overdramatic everything felt. A Bruthok beside her snorted. "Human." She laughs at pain. Galactic's eyes narrowed. No recruit had ever dared laugh in his presence. He stormed across the dunes toward her. "Enough," he roared. Lyra stood, dust clinging to her sweat-slicked skin, and met his gaze. "It's not so bad," she said simply. The instructor froze. The other recruits stared, mouths open. Laughter was forbidden here. Fear was mandatory. Obedience absolute. And yet here was this tiny human, grinning under the blazing suns. Galactic took a step closer. "You mock me, human? I'm just laughing," Lyra said, shrugging lightly. "It's funny. All this drama, it's a bit too much." A hush fell over the training ground. No one spoke. Galactic's jaw twitched. He had broken warriors larger and stronger than her, yet she stood, unbroken, smiling even. He growled a sound like cracking stone, and motioned for her to follow him. She did, keeping pace with surprising agility despite the sand sticking to her boots. The next challenge was called the Discipline Gauntlet. Recruits were tested for obedience, endurance, and fear. The alien instructors, including Galactic, would punish any signs of weakness with extreme measures: simulated electrocution, water deprivation, exposure to venomous insects. The goal was to see who could survive the impossible. Lyra stepped into the gauntlet. Her body trembled as scalding hot metal plates, sand pits, and venomous creatures appeared. The alien recruits winced, but most of them had seen worse. Lyra, however, had never faced such dangers in her peaceful colony on Ethos. Her heart raced, but she laughed. The first creature lunged, a massive sand scorpion, claws snapping. Other recruits screamed, ducked, or attacked with brute strength. Lyra studied it carefully, noting the shadow of its body, the way it moved, the rhythm of its strike. Then she sidestepped perfectly, landing behind it and using her pack to topple it. She laughed again, not from fear, but from exhilaration. Galactic's eyes burned. This tiny human. She understood the rules, but not in the way he expected. She was using her mind where the others used muscle. Hours went by. Each test was crueler than the last. Venomous snakes, toxic clouds, weightless pits, alien tactical puzzles. Lyra faced them all. And every time, when a recruit would flinch or cry out, she would make a small sound, a chuckle, or a grin. By evening, she had survived every trial without injury, something the instructors thought impossible. Galactic approached her again. "You endure," he said, voice low, almost incredulous. "Yet you laugh?" Lyra wiped the sweat and dust from her brow. "I guess. I just think fear is overrated," she said. The instructor's massive claws flexed. "I've broken the strongest warriors. None have ever." He stopped mid-sentence. His pride, his reputation, could not comprehend a creature so small laughing in the face of terror. Lyra tilted her head. "Are you upset?" she asked innocently. A silence fell. The desert winds howled, carrying the dust across the training field. The recruits whispered among themselves, humans. Maybe they were strange, yes, but also fearless in ways no alien could ever imagine. Galactic's jaw tightened. "I will see if your courage lasts," he growled, before vanishing into the shadows of the dunes. By nightfall, Lyra sat on a rock watching the twin moons rise over the desert horizon. The other recruits avoided her now, either in awe or fear. For the first time in the Academy's history, human had survived a day of the gauntlet without tears, screams, or begging. She had laughed, and that laughter had shattered the image of fear and power that Galactic had carefully constructed over decades. Her mind raced with the day's events, and yet she felt alive, more alive than she ever had on her homeworld. She had no weapon stronger than her fists, and no armor thicker than her skin, yet she had endured where others would have perished. She had survived by thinking, by observing, by daring to laugh. Somewhere in the distance, she heard Galactic growl again. She smiled. He had no idea what was coming next, and somewhere deep in her chest, a single, human truth burned bright. Even in a galaxy of monsters and deathworlds, humans could survive. Humans could endure. Humans could even make the impossible look easy. Lyra stood, brushing sand from her clothes, and whispered to herself, "Let them try to break me. Let them try." Her laughter echoed into the desert night, carried on the winds across the training grounds. The instructors had never heard a sound like it. It was not fear. It was not mockery. It was defiance. Pure, unyielding, human defiance. The next morning, the twin suns of Tikor rose, hot and sharp, burning the horizon into gold and crimson. The Academy grounds, still strewn with sand and broken debris from yesterday's gauntlet, seemed quieter. But for Lyra, there was no rest. The first day had only been a warning, a hint of what the instructors would demand next. Lyra's muscles ached, her skin was sunburned, and every joint groaned. Yet when she stepped onto the training field, she walked with the same calm, confident stride as the day before. She had survived the impossible once. Now, she was ready to prove she could do it again. Galactic waited at the center of the field, his massive shadow stretching across the sand. He was flanked by two other instructors, each equally fearsome. One was a towering insectoid with glimmering wings and serrated mandibles. The other was a gelatinous, shape-shifting creature whose body constantly shimmered and shifted. Both had trained recruits to breaking points many times over. Yet they looked at Lyra with something like disbelief. "You survived yesterday," Galactic said, voice low and cold. "But survival is not enough. Today, you will prove your worth. Fail, and you will regret your laughter." Lyra nodded. "I'll try my best," she said lightly. She was careful not to smile, though inside she was already amused. Every challenge they set seemed designed to terrify. but fear had never been her way. The first trial was called the Acid Lake, a wide expanse of boiling, green liquid stretched before the recruits. Acidic fumes rose, making the air burn. Aliens leaped across jagged stones, their claws scraping the edges, moving with practiced ease. Lyra stood at the edge, assessing the distance. Many humans might have panicked. She did not. Instead, she looked for patterns to the rhythm of the waves. The spacing of the rocks, the slight eddies in the acid that would allow a safe landing. She ran, jumped, and landed on the first stone, careful to keep her balance. She could feel the heat through her boots, smell the acrid stench of burning metal and flesh, but she kept moving. One stone slipped, sending her arm brushing the surface. She yelped and then laughed. The sound was small, incredulous, almost like a note of triumph. The other recruits froze. Aliens would never laugh here. Fear was sacred, obedience mandatory. Lyra's laughter was defiance in its purest form. Gralthek's eyes narrowed. She is still laughing. Lyra continued across the lake, improvising, leaping further than anyone expected, using her pack to steady herself. By the time she reached the other side, she was wet, singed, and tired, but she had done it. She had outsmarted a hazard that would have broken many of her peers. Next came the predator. Hunt. The Academy released a creature into a controlled arena, predator bred to hunt the smartest and fastest prey. It had multiple legs, sharp mandibles, and intelligence almost human. Most recruits panicked or attacked it head-on. Lyra, however, watched. She observed its movement, noting how it tracked shadows, how it reacted to sounds, how it calculated distances. When it lunged, she sidestepped, dodged, and used the terrain to her advantage. A low cliff, a narrow tunnel, a pit cleverly disguised with rocks. Lyra used them all. She did not strike the predator. She outsmarted it. By forcing it into a trap, she neutralized it without violence. When she emerged from the arena, her chest heaving, she laughed again. This time, the sound carried. The other recruits, impressed, whispered among themselves. This human did not rely on strength or brute force. She relied on intelligence, intuition, and courage. Graltic approached, every step making the sand tremble. His jaw flexed. You survive with tricks. But the final test is not a trap, not a puzzle. It is a fight. Against your strongest peer, you will either win or perish. Lyra's stomach tightened. A duel against the best alien recruit in the Academy was no small thing. She had faced predators, acid, venom, but an intelligent opponent trained to kill was a new challenge. Still, she did not show fear. The arena was vast. The best alien recruit stepped forward, a massive Bruthok named Thrax. He towered over Lyra. Muscles like steel, claws like knives. He smirked at her small frame. Do you truly think you can face me? He growled. Lyra shrugged. I don't know, but I'll try. The duel began. Thrax charged, claws swinging, teeth snapping. Lyra ducked, sidestepped, rolled her body small, nimble, almost impossibly fast. But Thrax was relentless, predicting her moves, forcing her toward the edges of the arena, and then she saw it, a small ridge. Barely noticeable, but enough to give her leverage. She dodged toward it, jumped, and flipped over Thrax's head, landing behind him. He spun, surprised, missing her by inches. She laughed softly, incredulously. The crowd gasped. The instructors froze. Aliens never laughed during combat, and certainly never at their superior. But Lyra's laughter was not mocking. It was courage, joy, and defiance, all rolled into one. The duel continued, a dance of intellect and agility. Thrax had strength, but Lyra had strategy. She forced him into traps, used his momentum against him, and predicted his attacks with uncanny accuracy. By the end, he collapsed, exhausted and bewildered, while Lyra stood, barely winded, smiling. Graltic stepped forward, his massive frame casting a long shadow. He had never seen anything like this. No human, no recruit, had ever faced the Academy's trials with such ingenuity and fearlessness. Lyra had not only survived, she had triumphed. You are impossible," he said, voice low, almost a whisper. "No training breaks you. No danger frightens you. And you laugh. Even when you fight for your life?" Lyra smiled. "I guess. Fear isn't always useful," she said simply. "Sometimes it's better to think, to move, and maybe laugh a little." The instructors exchanged glances. They had trained thousands of recruits. Many were strong, some cunning, but none had the combination of intelligence, courage, and humor that this human displayed. Word of Lyra's success spread quickly through the Academy. Other human recruits, when they arrived later, would hear of the girl who laughed in the face of acid, predators, and the fiercest alien warrior. They would be inspired. Aliens, too, began to respect humans not for their strength, but for their unpredictability, their ingenuity, their spirit. That evening, Lyra sat atop a ridge overlooking the red desert. The suns had set, leaving the sky a deep burning purple. The Academy below looked smaller now, almost insignificant. She could hear the instructors muttering, still unsettled by her victories, still unable to understand her mindset. Lyra's thoughts wandered. She had proven herself in ways the aliens did not expect. She had survived traps, predators, acid, and combat. She had laughed when every other recruit would have cried. And most importantly, she had shown that humans were not just another species to be broken. Humans were clever, adaptable, fearless, and yes, sometimes joyful. Even in the harshest conditions, a low rumble of footsteps made her glance down. Galactic was coming, moving silently across the dunes. His eyes, usually sharp with authority, were thoughtful. "You have survived," he said simply. "I have never seen a human like you." Lyra looked up at him, unafraid. "Thanks," she said. "I'm just me," he growled softly. "You will not survive the next challenges easily. The final trials, they are designed to break the spirit, not the body. And yet, I wonder if you will break them." Lyra chuckled. "We'll see." For the first time, the instructor's face, usually stern and unyielding, tightened as if confused by emotion. Frustration? Respect? Perhaps both. The thought of breaking her, of finally seeing fear in her eyes, seemed impossible. Lyra turned her gaze back to the desert. Somewhere predators roamed. Acid lakes glimmered. Dangerous creatures waited in the shadows. Yet she felt alive, more alive than ever. The trials had been cruel, yes, but they had also shown her strength she never knew she had. Strength not of muscle, but of mind and spirit. And she laughed again, quietly, softly. A human sound, defiant and unbroken. The instructors below heard it and paused, the sound echoing across the red sands. Carrying a message they did not fully understand, fear was not universal and humans were extraordinary. Lyra had survived the impossible twice now. Tomorrow, she would face the final trials, the ultimate tests designed to destroy even the bravest alien warrior. But tonight, she smiled. Tonight, she laughed, because she was human, and humans, she knew, could endure anything. The final morning on T-Core dawned with a harsh brilliance. The twin suns rose like blazing fireballs, lighting the jagged ridges of the Academy grounds. Lyra, small and human among the massive alien recruits, stepped out into the open field with the same calm she had shown since arrival. Today was the day that would either break her or prove her once and for all. Galactic waited at the center, flanked by the Academy's elite instructors. His massive form seemed to absorb the sunlight, his yellow eyes glowing with intensity. Around him, the other instructors, hulking aliens. Serpentine predators and insectoid warriors stood in silence, as if the very air held its breath. "You have survived the acid lake, the predator hunt, and the duel of strength," Galactic said, his voice low and controlled. "You have survived when no recruit before you has endured even half. But today is the final trial, the trial of the impossible. You will face the ultimate test of mind, body, and spirit. Fail, and this world will claim you. Lyra adjusted her pack, feeling the rough desert sand beneath her boots. Her heart beat steadily, but she was not afraid. The trials had been hard, yes, but fear had never been her way. She had learned to think, to observe, to improvise, and above all, to laugh. The instructors moved aside, revealing the arena. It was enormous, a vast canyon of jagged cliffs, bottomless pits, acid rivers, and shifting sandstorms. Dozens of dangerous creatures scuttled or prowled within it, and at the center stood a massive contraption machine designed to simulate every danger imaginable, from crushing weights to sudden energy blasts. This was no mere trial. It was a gauntlet designed to break even the strongest alien warrior. Your first task, Galactic said, is to cross the Canyon of Chaos. It tests your physical endurance. Fail, and you will fall into oblivion. Lyra stepped forward, her small form seeming fragile against the canyon's massive cliffs. She ran toward the first ridge, leapt over jagged rocks, slid down narrow ledges, and dodged falling debris. Each movement required thought, timing, and courage. She could feel her muscles screaming, her lungs burning, but she did not falter. Halfway through, a sandstorm erupted, hotter and sharper than any she had experienced before. Rocks flew like knives, and visibility dropped to almost zero. Many recruits froze, slipping and sliding on the rocky terrain. But Lyra slowed, observed the pattern of the wind and falling stones, and moved with careful precision. When a giant boulder threatened to crush her, she sidestepped at the last moment and landed on a narrow ledge. She laughed, the sound sharp and bright, cutting through the roar of the storm. Galactic's eyes narrowed. He had trained hundreds of recruits, yet no one had ever dared to laugh in the Canyon of Chaos. This human. She was impossible. Next came the trial of mind. The machine at the center of the arena activated, projecting illusions and holographic threats. Entire armies of alien warriors appeared, each attacking from impossible angles. Doors opened that led nowhere. Paths shifted constantly. Gravity twisted unexpectedly. Other recruits panicked. They screamed, ran, or froze. Lyra, however, studied the illusions. She noticed patterns, recognized traps, and anticipated the machine's next move. Step by step, she navigated through walls that seemed solid but were projections, dodged phantom attacks, and solved complex alien puzzles designed to stump the brightest minds. And all the while, she laughed. Not mockingly, not arrogantly, but in sheer exhilaration at overcoming impossible odds. Every chuckle, every grin was a declaration, I am human. I am alive. I am unbroken. By midday, the instructors had grown silent. Whispers spread among the other recruits. She is still laughing. How is it possible? Galactic stepped forward. His voice carried over the arena. You have endured the physical trial. You have endured the mental trial. Now comes the final test, the trial of spirit. Here you will face your deepest fear. You will fight the creature that embodies all pain, all despair, all death. Defeat it, and you prove that humans are extraordinary. Fail, and this world will claim you. From the shadows emerged a massive creature, taller than Galactic himself. Its skin was black as tar, its eyes glowing red. It had claws that could rend steel, wings that could summon storms, and teeth that gleamed like daggers. It roared, a sound that made the ground shake. The air seemed to thicken with its presence. This was the ultimate predator, born to break the spirit of any living being. Lyra's heart raced. This was unlike anything she had faced before. Her muscles tensed, her mind sharpened. And then she laughed. A small, incredulous laugh, almost defiant in the face of certain death. The creature charged. Its claws swung, its teeth snapped, its wings unleashed storms. Lyra dodged, rolled, leaped, and ran. But it was fast, almost impossibly fast, and every strike could have ended her life. She had no strength to match it, no armor to protect her. She had only her wits, her instincts, and her courage, and yet she fought. Not with brute force, but with cleverness. She led the creature into narrow passages where its massive size worked against it. She used shadows, rocks, and shifting sand to confuse it. When it lunged, she sidestepped at the perfect moment, letting its momentum carry it into a pit of venomous spines. She laughed again, triumphant. The instructors watched in stunned silence. Galactic's jaw flexed. No human had ever faced the trial of spirit. No human had ever survived even a minute. And yet, here she was, small, exhausted, battered, and victorious. Lyra approached the defeated creature. It tried to rise, to attack again, but she stood firm, unflinching. "It's over," she said simply. Galactic stepped forward, his massive shadow falling across her. He looked at her with a mixture of respect, awe, and frustration. I have never seen a creature like you," he said. "You are extraordinary. You have survived everything we have thrown at you. You have faced death itself and laughed. You are human," Lyra smiled. "Thanks, I guess. Humans just don't give up easily." The other recruits, aliens and humans alike, stared in disbelief. The impossible had been done. A human had survived the Deathworld Academy. A human had outsmarted predators, machines, illusions, and even the fiercest instructors. A human had laughed in the face of danger and won. Word of Lyra's triumph spread quickly through the academy. Other humans, when they arrived, would hear tales of the girl who laughed at death and survived. Aliens began to look at humans differently, not just as fragile, weak creatures, but as cunning, adaptable, and unbreakable. Galactic approached Lyra one last time. "You have changed how we see humans," he said. "Your courage, your cleverness, and your laughter will be remembered." Lyra nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. For the first time, she felt that she belonged, not because she was like them, but because she was herself. Human, unique, indomitable. That night, Lyra stood atop a ridge, looking out over the desert. The twin moons reflected on the red sands, casting long, flickering shadows. Below, the academy was silent, the instructors still shaken by the day's events. The other recruits were either inspired or humbled. And Lyra. She laughed once more. It was not just laughter at danger or triumph, it was laughter at the impossible. At a universe that had tried to break her. At instructors who thought humans were weak. At a galaxy that had underestimated her species. And in that laughter, there was truth. Humans could endure anything. Humans could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast. Humans could survive death worlds, predators, impossible trials, and still laugh while doing it. Lyra turned back toward the academy. Her path was far from over. There would be more trials, more battles, more worlds to conquer. But she was ready. She had faced the impossible. And she had one. And somewhere deep in the desert, Galactic growled softly, a sound mixed with respect and frustration. He had thought nothing could surprise him. Yet one human girl had done what no alien had done in decades. And for the first time in his long life, he understood a simple truth. Underestimate humans at your own peril. Lyra smiled. She laughed again. She was human, and humans could do anything